This is another journal entry. And no, you're not mistaken, this is not a short. I decided that shorts is not the best type of format for this series anymore, considering that each drawing takes between 8 to 10 hours for the simple enemies, and around 18 for the bosses or complex pages. Basically, it's getting kinda hard to squeeze so much content in under 1 minute. Anyways, I'm going to paint Gruz's mother this time, and since he is a boss, albeit a relatively easy one, I've constructed a more complex scene for her digitally that I need to transfer before I can start painting. I wanted to take the room she resides in and turn it about 45 degrees to create a sense of depth. I think it came out really nice. I especially like those benches that are already turned when you view this room straight on, so they end up even more turned in this perspective. As for Gruz's mother, I placed her facing the viewer, like she just noticed you and is looming over you, ready to body slam. I ended up not liking that choice, but we'll talk about that later. By the way, transferring this sketch took me nearly 3 hours, which feels unfair, since I've already spent a couple hours drawing this digitally in the first place. So notes to myself, I should find a way to transfer them faster. As I start painting, I went into this entry with a plan. No more repeats of the previous mistakes. I'm working in layers, starting from the furthest element, the back wall, and moving slowly to the front. I don't want to get too technical and bore you with the details, unless you guys want me to. You can leave your suggestions in the comments as to how you'd like the format of this series to go, cause oh boy do we have a lot of entries to go through. And by we, I primarily mean I. For now, I'm going to say my general thoughts, starting with a big sorry for the wait. I know you really love this series, and I obviously am invested too, but the channel has the word crafting in its name for a reason. I love making 3D things with my hands, so taking big breaks from painting the journal entries is necessary for me to avoid burnout. I hope you understand and thank you for being patient. Don't worry, I'll get to all the entries eventually. My goal for 2026 is to finish Forgotten Crossroads and Green Path, two of the biggest areas entry-wise. As the areas progress, the unique enemies inside an area get fewer and fewer, which makes drawing them much easier for my mentality, since I don't have to paint the same backgrounds 22 or 15 times. Yes, that's how many enemies are in the first 2 areas. In comparison, Kingdom's Edge only has 5 unique enemies, if we exclude the Colosseum of Fools, which I consider its own mini-area. Ancient Basin has 6, and the Abyss only 2. This brings me to the next point I want to talk about. A lot of you ask me if I'm going to paint the 4 item entries, meaning Hunter's Mark, Seal of Binding, Void Idol, and Weather Mask, or when I'm going to paint X enemy or boss. So I should explain the plan I've got for the journal. First of all, yes, I'm painting all the item entries that are in the journal, they are just in their own little section in the end. I am not opposed to draw them a bit earlier if there is high demand for them, since I have each and every page planned out, so I know exactly where each entry goes. This is also true for highly anticipated entries like the Grim Troop ones or Pure Vessel, though I'm saving these for some special occasion. You can't convince me that painting Grim Troop on Halloween or the Collector on Valentine's Day is not a brilliant idea. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me explain to you in what order I'm painting the entries. The enemies in Hollow Knight are unique to an area, with a bit of an overlap. For example, you can find some husks in parts of Green Path that resemble the Forgotten Crossroads, and the enemies in Howling Cliffs are identical to the ones in Forgotten Crossroads, with the exception of the one and only true god, Gorb. But in most cases, especially for later areas, if you encounter an enemy to a new area, it belongs to that area. So I decided before even starting on bookbinding the journal, that I want to paint the entries by area, as they also appear in the game's journal. Now, the order of the areas is chosen by how a quote-unquote typical playthrough would go. Of course, not everyone's experience will be the same. We all start from Forgotten Crossroads, move on to Green Path, pass through Fog Canyon, then Fungal Wastes, City of Tears, and after that, the game opens up and it becomes non-linear. Before you ask me, why are you painting the far end pink? Let me remind you that Salubra's shop is right after this fight, even though we cannot access it yet without the dash ability. So I'm guessing you should be able to see her pink glow from that point of view? Okay, maybe I overdid it with the pink. At least it draws your attention there, and that's okay, since that's where my vanishing point is. Your eyes should be directed there. After all the areas are placed, there is a section with the entries that don't belong in an area, but are rather thematically unique and mostly DLC content. I've bundled up all the dream bosses in one section, rather than paint each one in the area it is found. Same goes for Grim Troop and, of course, everyone's beloved Grey Prince Zod and his variations. Then I have the Nail Masters that appear as bosses in the Pantheons, and the 4 most important characters of the game: the Hollow Knight, Pure Vessel, Radiance, and the Shade. And my journal finishes off with the 4 items. There is a lot of thought behind this, which is the reason why the Silksong journal is taking so long. I want to put the same amount of thought behind it, which means waiting until all to most of the DLCs are out, so that I know what I'm working with and exactly where to place each entry, how to organize them, and so on. I'm not sure if you've noticed so far, but I've shifted the color theme of Forgotten Crossroads from bluish grey to greyish purples with a splash of blues mixed in. This time, as I was trying to keep the furthest objects darker and blurrier to enhance the sense of depth, I struggled with the objects closest to the viewer. I felt like I was running out of vibrant colors to pick from my palette, but that's a me problem. I should just get the... Now the light is where the magic happens. I freaking love how this turned out. I've said it before, but I will say it again. I love painting light, but these light bulbs are a splash of white amidst the purples and blues, which is just mwah, perfection. I love how the chain links pop, the little Luma fly hanging in there. Honestly, I could praise them all day, but let's move on. These strange oval things gave me a bit of a struggle. I think they are meant to be windows or mirrors, but I don't think mirrors would have these metal braces all over them. In any case, I needed to find a bright color to express the cloudiness of the glass, but I got it in the end. I like how the tiled floor turned out, especially the perspective of it. I know I've said it once again, but I worked hard on making that perspective, so I feel proud of it. About this throne-like object, there is a story behind it, and if I am not mistaken, the TLDR is, in this room there used to be a representation of the Pale King and the White Lady in the form of statues, as well as a cradle, but they were discarded later on and only this object that I'm painting right now remained. It does still resemble the top of Pale King's head, and that's why I decided to stray away from the color palette and paint it completely white. I don't know if that was a good choice, however. It might draw too much attention away from the rest of the scene, but if I don't experiment, I'm not going to learn. I don't know how to feel about Gra's mother herself. I sketched the front view, like how I made the Vengefly King entry, but that obscures her teeny tiny wings and the result looks like she just floats there? Maybe I should have placed her on the side, aligning with the rest of the room, but since she's basically identical with her offsprings, I wanted to take the risk of a different approach. Did it pay off? Not really, I would say, but again, if I don't make mistakes, I won't learn. But why not fix it? I hear you say. Well, sometimes I like to actually keep my mistakes visible as a visual reminder of what I should avoid next time. Since I don't hate the result, I kept it. While in the case of Vengefly King, I wiped off hours of work because I wasn't satisfied with how things were turning out. Before we continue to the sketches, gather around, I have an announcement to make. I have a Patreon now! So if you want to support me outside of watching my videos, now you can! Also YouTube memberships, if that's what you prefer. Okay, now back to the video. Moving on to the sketches. This is by far my favorite part, because it makes the whole page pop, gives it some character. This is where I can tell the story behind an entry, and I think in reality, Hunter would do these small sketches on the journal instead of elaborate background paintings with an enemy somewhere there. I am not a fool. I know that even though this is a journal depicting creatures, it's a bestiary after all, I'm spending most of my time painting the backgrounds. I do this for my own joy, cause I love the art style of the game too much for my own good. In reality though, I can't imagine anyone on the wild painting these. A quick sketch is all that's needed to record the information that you want to pass down to the next generations. So I'm sketching Gruz's mother peacefully sleeping, since this is how we find her in the game, and also Hunter comments on the whole carrying her young in her stomach instead of hatching eggs ordeal. So I'm telling that story in 3 stages. The sleeping mother, a magnified part that shows the little Gruzzers inside her belly, and a bubble that shows eggs, accompanied with a bunch of X's and question marks depicting Hunter's confusion. I have to admit, the way this game's world is so interconnected and just makes sense is astonishing. Cause of course a bug would find a mammal's way of bringing its offsprings into the world strange. The storytelling of this game, even through something as simple as a bestiary, is something I deeply admire, and I can only hope to write stories this way someday. Hunter also says that this process exhausts the creature and makes it sleepy. Usually you show that someone is tired or has low energy by throwing an almost empty battery with a tiny red bar, but I want to depict that in a way that fits into the world of Hollow Knight. So how do we measure the energy, or should I say health, in this game? Well, with masks of course, and as I am writing the script, I realized I should have sketched the masks to be tiny faces of the grandmother. Such a missed opportunity right there. Now, to show that they are empty, I made them cracked on top, but I think I should erase all shadows entirely to boost contrast. That's an easy fix for future me. Of course I have to sketch her tiny wings. It's as if the wings of a Gruzzer barely grow from birth to adulthood. How is this thing even staying afloat? Finally, I have to talk about the attacks of the boss. Gruz's mother is as simple as Vengefly King. She has 2 attacks, an aggressive body slam and a diagonal charge that seems to be targeting the player. As with Vengefly King, I'll sketch this with white acrylic ink. I also use the same ink to lightly highlight part of the sketches, like the health bar and her wings. Before I write the text of the entry, I'll use this black ink to draw the outline of the bubbles to make them stand out, and sketch arrows and other symbols. It seems that we're having some technical difficulties. Hold on. I think my ink is starting to dry out because the cap doesn't twist fully. I probably need to clean the dry ink there. Working with a pen and ink is extremely hard on this type of paper. It's not designed for a pen tip, even though it handles ink as a medium just fine. The metal tip keeps rubbing off the paper and gets clogged, especially when writing the text. But I am nothing if stubborn, so I keep using it. I think you need to have a certain amount of stubbornness in you to keep up with the demands of such a huge project. Gruz's mother is done! Let me know how you think this one turned out. I think it fits perfectly alongside Vengefly King, and I love all the little details. As always, thank you for watching, and see you on the next one!